Hello guys, this is literally my first time making this video and tweaking the filters for wait a minute, I don't know, 10 times. And I know it's still bad because my microphone is literally from fucking trash. Nah, no, maybe not completely. But basically, a colleague of mine, he wanted to throw it away and I was like, you know what, I can check it. And then I realized the cables are scuffed, that nothing works. So then I gave the microphone to my tech-savvy friend in the electrical engineering department, and or more like mechatronics. So he's great at electronics, but I don't know if the microphone is broken or if he made the cable shit. So it's one of those. So yeah, how do I start this? You can see the title. I think, I don't know from which side, if it's gonna be mirror or not, but it should say day 3, I think. And the channel name should be devlog something, right? So, yeah. What happened? So I'm David. Some people call me David. Some people call me Dave. This used to be my cool party guy persona name. And I myself call an idiot. However, yeah, feel free to choose from one of those 4. I can imagine some of the one of them will prevail, you know. So yeah. Okay. So who am I? I personally have had some sort of discovery in my life. You know, some spiritual discovery. I realized that a project that I was working on for 42 days. No, so what do I say days, bro? I wish it was 42 days. 42 months. Yeah, more like 1,000 days or something. 1,000 something. And I did it like full time, everything. And I realized that it is not healthy for me. And I also realized that it is probably also unfeasible for me as a single person. So, eventually, I came up to the conclusion after so much time that I actually want to be happy. And you know what makes me happy? First, some creative, you know, creating stuff. I love to create stuff. I love to experiment. And the second is video games. So I realized that I definitely want to make a video game. I will come to later what it is. And this is what the channel is called like. The game is gonna be called Humming Deserts. And I think this is a very lore-oriented name. And if one day somebody plays it, they will find out maybe why. However, maybe before I say what the game is, I say what I like, you know? So I like a few of my personal favorites in kind of the genre I am aiming for are Slay the Spire and Caves of Qud. The people who know Seth Zintak, they will recognize it maybe. This is one of my favorite YouTubers of mine, the psycho doctor who found out about what internet is. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, what I wanted to say is I like Slay the Spire, I like Caves of Qud, and yeah, there are many more games. I like open world exploration. For example, when I played Satisfactory, I actually, instead of building the factory, I was exploring the map. And the reason why I even built the reason even I built the factory is to create better gear to explore the map more. And yeah, so I think if I had a Nintendo, I would be just playing Zelda all the time or something like this. All right, so so this is the games I like. However, I personally feel like mixing them. So, you know, just putting stuff in the blender is stupid. You know, of course, you cannot just mix stuff that you like. You know, for example, you know, Yeah. But I have some critiques to these games. Actually, yeah, to Slay the Spire more than the Caves of Kut. Caves of Kut is really one of my favorite ones. And I realized, what if I mix them so that they align with my bigger vision, first? And second, I was wondering, well, what can be improved? Which I realized over my countless hours of playing these games. And something that I personally not like about Slay the Spire, which is completely fine. Everybody likes different things. However, what I feel is wasted potential is that first, the so Slay the Spire, for those who don't know, it has like 3 acts, and each of them might take like 20 minutes. So the idea is that over a course of 1 hour, you play a run, and if you die, you die, and then you start a new run, right? And you have difficulty sliders. Basically, there is no in-between progression. So this is the first thing about Slay the Spire. I personally would love to have just more content. I wish there was more zones. I know there are mods, but I just don't like mods because I feel like they kind of don't align with the idea of the creator. So, for example, this is also why I prefer watching movies in English if they are done by USA or something English speaking, whatever, because you can hear their voices as they were intended. If I would listen to Rick Sanchez in a different language, I would not be able to live. Like really, I really want Rick Sanchez to sound the way he sounds, and he was intended to be this way. So yeah, so I wish there was basically more content to Slay the Spire. This is the first thing. Second thing is I don't like the completely linear progression. I mean, yeah, they have paths and stuff, but I don't know, man. I feel like the problem is that it is not very complicated. I get it. It's a simple game, and this is why it pains me so much that there is just not that much complexity. The complexity emerges from cards and combos, but once you play for a while, you kind of are stuck with like a few builds that you realize. And yeah, of course, since there is a probability weighting and you cannot guarantee cards, you need to be flexible, but still, you know, for example, I myself, I played a warrior basically, the ascended, I don't know how it's called, but basically the warrior, and I go for the strength build, for the block build, whatever. There are a few, and you can really see that each card belongs to an archetype. It doesn't allow for like very variability in the gameplay, and so I dislike the linear paths. The fact that you just always go forward, you can't ever go to another zone, then back, get this there, use it that way. You always just go in front. Yeah, so these are the two critiques I have on Slay the Spire, and you know, it's just a personal opinion. I personally feel like, you know, more employed people than me, because yeah, I'm not full time. Yeah, but the people with less time, they probably value this more. However, I am more of a guy who likes to play a game where I spend like 30-40 hours on one save, because then the permadeath actually matters. It's why I like Caves of Kut. In Caves of Kut, I think one of my longest characters, it survived like 40 hours or something, you know. I would play it throughout like weeks, you know. I would play it throughout weeks, and this is something I really like about Caves of Kut. However, I also like the fact that they gave the casual players an option to live without permadeath, you know. And however, I feel like, you know, I personally feel like Caves of Kut is a masterpiece. but if I had to look for critiques, I think it would be that that the place feels a bit grindy sometimes. I mean, Caves of Kut give you the option of avoiding challenges and grind in the safe zone. Also, for example, let's say you have a mage. What you can do is you can just walk through the desert and wait until a very random enemy spawns, espers, and you just gather their ego, and yeah. And also, I feel like Caves of Kut is first very buggy. Like playing this game without console feels sometimes very hard. You know, it's crazy. And second, it sometimes feels unfair not because I'm not talking unfairness because you weren't prepared. Like, if something happens and I die, I'm completely fine with this, even if I'm hit in one hit. However, what sometimes happens is I go through the desert and I get eaten by a salt kraken, which is the toughest enemy in the game, and it one-shots you. It's neutral, however, it just goes in front, and sometimes you are there. So, or for example, because of the randomness of the generation, you can literally like be in the starter zone, and the level 40 Putus Templar, legendary hero with endgame armor and everything, like smashes you, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, I guess, in the at first, because I mean, yeah, I mean, you just started. However, my problem is what happens if it happens in the middle game, because in the middle game they also one-shot you, and you know, this is not an enemy that was designed to one-shot completely. You know, like let's say you are in, because there are zones where you are getting one-shot. There are zones where, for example, you know, the troll that is invisible and stuff, and yeah. However, don't get me wrong, I love Capes of Good. If the studio, if Freedom, what was their name? No, Freedom was Robocraft. If your studio, free, they had a city name for this. I didn't play for a while because I was doing something else. But if you guys see it, I love your game. But okay, but now back to my game. So what I was thinking, well, how about I remove the grinding from Capes of Good, and I try to remove the unfairness while keeping the cheesiness, you know, the cheese, and open world exploration of Capes of Good, and the concept of being extremely lore heavy. Something I also love about Capes of Good is how lore heavy it is. Like, I think this is a masterpiece. And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna steal the idea of implementing books as like additional lore to the game, because I think it's brilliant. I'm gonna do it, but one day when I have time. And so I want to borrow the concept of very deep lore, open world exploration, and the difficulty scaling. I really love the fact that things don't become like stronger and stronger. I sometimes see like Slay the Spire has the problem that, yeah, there are mechanics, but most of the time the problem is that the enemies have more HP and more attack. I dislike this. I personally like the fact that the more difficult the game gets, the more unprepared, if you are first time, you are at what kind of stupid shit will happen. You know, you go into this zone, you get on fire. Okay, that's no big deal. You get into this zone, oh, you get poisoned. This isn't a big deal, but it's harder, it's tougher. Oh, you get into this zone, they break your stuff. You go into this zone, they drain your permanent HP. You go into this zone, they drain your permanent stats, which are so hard to get in this game, which is, I think, a genius idea. I think it is a genius idea. And then you go into this zone, everything is just stupidly annoying. You get fungal infections, and you either have to live with it, you get sicknesses, and then you get like executed in the next zone. Like, you know, you lose your limbs. Why did my stuff freeze? Oh man, that's not cool. Oh no, my computer froze. Shit, that's not cool. Oh no, my computer froze. Shit. The way they work. Nah, never mind. My computer is just crashed. But okay, maybe. Nah, okay, it's better now. That's great. Okay, so I was just discussing about my, you know, why I think Cock is genius, like Case of. So, okay, now what I like about Slay the Spire is a deck building mechanic. I feel like deck building is great, you know. I also like that Slay the Spire is a bit less intensive than Caves of Good. I feel like sometimes I go into a zone and things are like infinitely difficult. Like, no, not infinitely difficult. Infinitely difficult would be fine. It is the wrong word. Too many enemies, too much clutter. You come into an area with spawners, You walk around looking for chests, and then you find out that you have infinite hordes of enemies, and you feel like, and you know, it's not even difficult. If it was, maybe it was like a little bit fun, but they are just simple enemies. And if you say, let's say, have a cooldown, you just have to wait. Attack, 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 retreat. Cooldown, wait. Attack, attack, attack. They don't even chase you if you have some towers that can prevent them, you know? So this I find not very cool. And yeah, so this is something I wanna fix Cakes of Code too. I also aim to fix, yeah, and the Slay the Spire doesn't have this problem at all. So this is, for example, a strength of Slay the Spire. The combats feel pretty heavy. There are some enemies that are a little bit more, how do you call it? Annoying, and sometimes it takes a long time, especially if you have some block build or something, you know. Like for example, the first boss, it drains your strength, and it kind of becomes like, on one hand it becomes a time attack, you know, you have to do it fast, but on the other hand he slows you down constantly, and yeah, you either die or like it takes a long time, you know, to play it well. But yeah, so I think Slay the Spire does it a little bit better. So I want to combine this, Slay the Spire and Caves of Kut, with my own vision of what an open world should be. I really like the grid approach of Caves of Kut, but I feel like it's very uninviting to a player that is new, because first, the graphics is something you need to get used to, but I personally think they are beautiful. But at first it was a little bit confusing. Well, now they have a new UI. The old UI was harder to navigate. And I feel like I just want to make my own world. You know, I want to have a different lore than just Caves of Kut. I mean, it's great, but I aim for something entirely different. And yeah, so this is my idea. I will try to create a single player roguelike with card building elements and with open world. These are like the most important priorities for me, and of course the lore. The lore must be, and I can tell you it's pretty juicy. I was having a very long talking to myself session. So yeah, I really like it. And yeah, if you enjoyed, if for some reason you enjoyed to stay here with some 26-year-old guy yapping, and just, you know, you didn't just, you know, scroll away or something, feel free to check it out in like 10 days or 20, you know, give me time. I think I will do devlogs way more often, but I prefer being pessimistic. So I aim for like every 4 days or something. However, I cannot guarantee anything. So yeah. All right. And who knows, one day maybe this will become a real game. I even already have created a map editor, and it's pretty cool. However, I will have to remake it due to reasons that don't satisfy me. So it is good, but it could be better. And yeah, and what is the most important thing for me is the community. If you ever, like, let's say in the development phase, I say, yo, I implemented this feature, and you say, David, this is stupid. Tell me. I ask you to tell me that this is stupid. Not because, you know, I want to prove you wrong or something. No, I want feedback, because what I like is not what other people like in 100%. You know, this is different. So I personally require your support to combine my vision with your vision of your dream game. I personally feel that this is also the reason why I created this YouTube channel on the third day. I want to grow a community. I want feedback. I want you to be to experience the results. I personally, and I also want to document my journey. If I see it in 300 days, and I actually ever release the game, I can look back on myself and say, like, if it doesn't work, I was so stupid. And if it did work, I will be looking with tear drop in my eye, you know. I know this. So yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. Any support is always, like, you know, sometimes you can write me a nice comment or something, you know, it's all very appreciated. However, don't worry. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day. See ya.